but non-being is what we use. 12. Colors blind the eye. Sounds deafen the ear. Flavors numb the taste. Thoughts weaken the mind. Desires wither the heart. The master observes the world, but trusts his inner vision. He allows things to come and go.
In a logical sense, but
His heart is open as the sky. 13. Success is as dangerous as failure. Hope is as hollow as fear. What does it mean that success is as dangerous as failure? Whether you go up the ladder or down it, your position is shaky. When you stand with your 2 feet on the ground, you will always keep your balance. What does it mean that hope is as hollow as fear? Hope and fear are both phantoms that arise from thinking of the self. When we don't see the self as self, what do we have to fear? See the world as yourself. Have faith in the way things are. Love the world as yourself. Then you can care for all things. 14. Look, and it can't be seen. Listen, and it can't be heard. Reach, and it can't be grasped. Above, it isn't bright. Below, it isn't dark. Seamless, unnameable, it returns to the realm of nothing. Form that includes all forms. Image without an image. Subtle, beyond all conception. Approach it, and there is no beginning. Follow it, and there is no end. You can't know it, but you can be it, at ease in your own life. Just realize where you come from. This is the essence of wisdom. 15. The ancient masters were profound and subtle. Their wisdom was unfathomable. There is no way to describe it. All we can describe is their appearance. They were careful as someone crossing an iced-over stream, alert as a warrior in enemy territory, courteous as a guest, fluid as melting ice, shapeable as a block of wood, receptive as a valley, clear as a glass of water. Do you have the patience to wait till your mud settles and the water is clear? Can you remain unmoving till the right action arises by itself? The master doesn't seek fulfillment. Not seeking, not expecting. She is present and can welcome all things. 16. Empty your mind of all thoughts. Let your heart be at peace. Watch the turmoil of beings, but contemplate their return. Each separate being in the universe returns to the common source. Returning to the source is serenity. If you don't realize the source, you stumble in confusion and sorrow. When you realize where you come from, you naturally become tolerant, disinterested, amused, kind-hearted as a grandmother, dignified as a king. Immersed in the wonder of the Tao, you can deal with whatever life brings you. And when death comes, you are ready. 17. When the master governs, the people are hardly aware that he exists. Next best is a leader who is loved. Next, one who is feared. The worst is one who is despised. If you don't trust the people, you make them untrustworthy. The master doesn't talk, he acts. When his work is done, the people say, "Amazing, we did it, all by ourselves." 18. When the great Tao is forgotten, goodness and piety appear. When the body's intelligence declines, cleverness and knowledge step forth. When there is no peace in the family, filial piety begins. When the country falls into chaos, patriotism is born. 19. Throw away holiness and wisdom, and people will be 100 times happier. Throw away morality and justice, and people will do the right thing. Throw away industry and profit, and there won't be any thieves. If these three aren't enough, just stay at the center of the circle and let all things take their course. 20. Stop thinking and end your problems. What difference between yes and no? What difference between success and failure? Must you value what others value, avoid what others avoid? How ridiculous. Other people are excited, as though they were at a parade. I alone don't care. I alone am expressionless, like an infant before it can smile. Other people have what they need. I alone possess nothing. I alone drift about like someone without a home. I am like an idiot. My mind is so empty. Other people are bright. I alone am dark. Other people are sharp. I alone am dull. Other people have a purpose. I alone don't know. I drift like a wave on the ocean. I blow as aimless as the wind. I am different from ordinary people. I drink from the Great Mother's breasts. 21. The Master keeps her mind always at one with the Tao. That is what gives her her radiance. The Tao is ungraspable. How can her mind be at one with it? Because she doesn't cling to ideas. The Tao is dark and unfathomable. How can it make her radiant? Because she lets it. Since before time and space were, the Tao is. It is beyond is and is not. How do I know this is true? I look inside myself and see. "22. If you want to become whole, let yourself be partial. If you want to become straight, let yourself be crooked. If you want to become full, let yourself be empty. If you want to be reborn, let yourself die. If you want to be given everything, give everything up." The Master, by residing in the Tao, sets an example for all beings. Because he doesn't display himself, people can see his light. Because he has nothing to prove, people can trust his words. Because he doesn't know who he is, people recognize themselves in him. Because he has no goal in mind, everything he does succeeds. When the ancient masters said, "If you want to be given everything, give everything up," they weren't using empty phrases. Only in being lived by the Tao can you be truly yourself. 23. Express yourself completely, then keep quiet. Be like the forces of nature. When it blows, there is only wind. When it rains, there is only rain. When the clouds pass, the sun shines through. If you open yourself to the Tao, you are at one with the Tao, and you can embody it completely. If you open yourself to insight, you are at one with insight, and you can use it completely. If you open yourself to loss, you are at one with loss, and you can accept it completely. Open yourself to the Tao, then trust your natural responses, and everything will fall into place. 24. He who stands on tiptoe doesn't stand firm. He who rushes ahead doesn't go far. He who tries to shine dims his own light. He who defines himself can't know who he really is. He who has power over others can't empower himself. He who clings to his work will create nothing that endures. If you want to accord with the Tao, just do your job, then let go. 25. There was something formless and perfect before the universe was born. It is serene, empty, solitary, unchanging, infinite, eternally present. It is the mother of the universe. For lack of a better name, I call it the Tao. It flows through all things, inside and outside, and returns to the origin of all things. The Tao is great. The universe is great. Earth is great. Man is great. These are the four great powers. Man follows the earth. Earth follows the universe. The universe follows the Tao. The Tao follows only itself. 26. The heavy is the root of the light. The unmoved is the source of all movement. Thus the Master travels all day without leaving home. However splendid the views, she stays serenely in herself. Why should the lord of the country flit about like a fool? If you let yourself be blown to and fro, you lose touch with your root. If you let restlessness move you, you lose touch with who you are. 27. A good traveler has no fixed plans and is not intent upon arriving. A good artist lets his intuition lead him wherever it wants. A good scientist has freed himself of concepts and keeps his mind open to what is. Thus the Master is available to all people, and doesn't reject anyone. He is ready to use all situations and doesn't waste anything. This is called embodying the light. What is a good man but a bad man's teacher? What is a bad man but a good man's job? If you don't understand this, you will get lost, however intelligent you are. It is the great secret. "28. Know the male, yet keep to the female. Receive the world in your arms. If you receive the world, the Tao will never leave you, and you will be like a little child. Know the white, yet keep to the black. Be a pattern for the world. If you are a pattern for the world, the Tao will be strong inside you, and there will be nothing you can't do. Know the personal, yet keep to the impersonal. Accept the world as it is. If you accept the world, the Tao will be luminous inside you, and you will return to your primal self. The world is formed from the void, like utensils from a block of wood. The master knows the utensils, yet keeps to the block. Thus she can use all things. 29. Do you want to improve the world? I don't think it can be done. The world is sacred. It can't be improved. If you tamper with it, you'll ruin it. If you treat it like an object, you'll lose it. There is a time for being ahead, a time for being behind, a time for being in motion, a time for being at rest, a time for being vigorous, a time for being exhausted, a time for being safe, a time for being in danger. The master sees things as they are, without trying to control them. She lets them go their own way and resides at the center of the circle. 30. Whoever relies on the Tao in governing men doesn't try to force issues or defeat enemies by force of arms. For every force, there is a counterforce. Violence, even well-intentioned, always rebounds upon oneself. The master does his job and then stops. He understands that the universe is forever out of control, and that trying to dominate events goes against the current of the Tao. Because he believes in himself, He doesn't try to convince others, because he is content with himself. He doesn't need others' approval, because he accepts himself. The whole world accepts him. 31. Weapons are the tools of violence. All decent men detest them. Weapons are the tools of fear. A decent man will avoid them, except in the direst necessity, and if compelled, will use them only with the utmost restraint. Peace is his highest value. If the peace has been shattered, how can he be content? His enemies are not demons, but human beings like himself. He doesn't wish them personal harm, nor does he rejoice in victory. How could he rejoice in victory and delight in the slaughter of men? He enters a battle gravely, with sorrow, and with great compassion, as if he were attending a funeral. 32. The Tao can't be perceived. Smaller than an electron, it contains uncountable galaxies. If powerful men and women could remain centered in the Tao, all things would be in harmony. The world would become a paradise. All people would be at peace, and the law would be written in their hearts. When you have names and forms, know that they are provisional. When you have institutions, know where their functions should end. Knowing when to stop, you can avoid any danger. All things end in the Tao, as rivers flow into the sea. 33. Knowing others is intelligence. Knowing yourself is true wisdom. Mastering others is strength. Mastering yourself is true power. If you realize that you have enough, you are truly rich. If you stay in the center and embrace death with your whole heart, you will endure forever. 34. The great Tao flows everywhere. All things are born from it, yet it doesn't create them. It pours itself into its work, yet it makes no claim. It nourishes infinite worlds, yet it doesn't hold on to them. Since it is merged with all things and hidden in their hearts, it can be called humble. Since all things vanish into it, and it alone endures, it can be called great. It isn't aware of its greatness. Thus, it is truly great. 35. She who is centered in the Tao can go where she wishes without danger. She perceives the universal harmony, even amid great pain, because she has found peace in her heart. Music or the smell of good cooking may make people stop and enjoy, but words that point to the Tao seem monotonous and without flavor. When you look for it, there is nothing to see. When you listen for it, there is nothing to hear. When you use it, it is inexhaustible. 36. If you want to shrink something, you must first allow it to expand. If you want to get rid of something, you must first allow it to flourish. If you want to take something, you must first allow it to be given. This is called the subtle perception of the way things are. The soft overcomes the hard. The slow overcomes the fast. Let your workings remain a mystery. This is called the subtle perception of the way things are. The soft overcomes the hard. The slow overcomes the fast. Let your workings remain a mystery. Just show people the results. 37. The Tao never does anything, yet through it all things are done. If powerful men and women could center themselves in it, the whole world would be transformed by itself in its natural rhythms. People would be content with their simple, everyday lives, in harmony and free of desire. When there is no desire, all things are at peace. 38. The Master doesn't try to be powerful. Thus, he is truly powerful. The ordinary man keeps reaching for power. Thus, he never has enough. The Master does nothing, yet he leaves nothing undone. The ordinary man is always doing things, yet many more left to be done. The kind man does something, yet something remains undone. The just man does something, and leaves many things to be done. The moral man does something, and when no one responds, he rolls up his sleeves and uses force. When the Tao is lost, there is goodness. When goodness is lost, there is morality. When morality is lost, there is ritual. Ritual is the husk of true faith, the beginning of chaos. Therefore, the Master concerns himself with the depths and not the surface, with the fruit and not the flower. He has no will of his own. He dwells in reality and lets all illusions go. 39. In harmony with the Tao, the sky is clear and spacious. The earth is solid and full. All creatures flourish together, content with the way they are, endlessly repeating themselves, endlessly renewed. When man interferes with the Tao, the sky becomes filthy. The earth becomes depleted. The equilibrium crumbles. Creatures become extinct. The master views the parts with compassion because he understands the whole. His constant practice is humility. He doesn't glitter like a jewel, but lets himself be shaped by the Tao, as rugged and common as a stone. 40. Return is the movement of the Tao. Yielding is the way of the Tao. All things are born of being. Being is born of non-being. When a superior man hears of the Tao, he immediately begins to embody it. When an average man hears of the Tao, he half believes it, half doubts it.
Where? On campuses?
When a foolish man hears of the Tao, he laughs out loud. If he didn't laugh, it wouldn't be the Tao.
You know, I go to the New York Times, I scour, I look at the top 20 articles, it's not in there.
Jesus, Randy, what are you, in a popcorn maker?
I bought something that is in a plastic container, I'm sorry. I'm not a loud person. Somehow on the app people think of me as a loud person, but in real life I'm quiet as a church mouse.
Well, when you're messing with food or a snack, maybe just to think about maybe just muting up until it's open and done. Otherwise, you never realize the background sound, how loud it can be.
You are so right, sir, and I apologize, honestly.
Alright, y'all, it's my bedtime. I will talk to y'all or see y'all tomorrow. After the night.
Bye, Shaw. Sweet dreams.
Be safe, Randy.
Thank you. I'm almost home. Did anyone see Larry David wrote an editorial in the New York Times page? Did anyone see it?
No.
It's about his dinner with Trump. It's basically, his dinner with Hitler. It's a parody. It's a takedown. You know how Bill Maher last week did a monologue about having dinner with Trump and how he found Trump kind of, charming? Well, Larry David did like a parody of it, talking about having dinner with Hitler. I think it's ridiculous. I think it's beyond. I think Larry David is much funnier. It's kind of forced, but in the echo chamber of the New York
Now, your
Times,
wife is who she is, but she's also who she can become, as you've no doubt noticed many times.
Randy,
And you can extract out something good or something terrible from the possibility she represents. Now, your wife is who she is, but she's also
like in these houses in Clubhouse. Lunch with Norm in New York. They were so bad. I was like, why? It's like...
Mahmoud Khalil's wife just gave birth. FYI, about 30 minutes ago.
Mazel tov!
I heard she named the baby Idiot after the father. Kidding. I wish them all the best.
Somebody kicked me from the room.
Thus it is said, the path into the light seems dark. The path forward seems to go back. The direct path seems long. True power seems weak. True purity seems tarnished. True steadfastness seems changeable. True clarity seems obscure. The greatest art seems unsophisticated.
You're a popcorn maker.
The greatest love seems indifferent. The greatest wisdom seems childish. The Tao is nowhere to be found, yet it nourishes and completes all things. 42. The Tao gives birth to one. One gives birth to two. Two gives birth to three. Three gives birth to all things. All things have their backs to the female and stand facing the male. When male and female combine, all things achieve harmony. Ordinary men hate solitude, but the Master makes use of it, embracing his aloneness, realizing he is one with the whole universe. 43. The gentlest thing in the world overcomes the hardest thing in the world. That which has no substance enters where there is no space. This shows the value of non-action. Teaching without words, performing without actions. That is the Master's way. 44. Fame or integrity? Which is more important? Money or happiness? Which is more valuable? Success or failure? Which is more destructive? If you look to others for fulfillment, you will never truly be fulfilled. If your happiness depends on money, you will never be happy with yourself. Be content with what you have. Rejoice in the way things are. When you realize there is nothing lacking, the whole world belongs to you. 45. True perfection seems imperfect. Yet it is perfectly itself. True fullness seems empty, yet it is fully present. True straightness seems crooked. True wisdom seems foolish. True art seems artless. The Master allows things to happen. She shapes events as they come. She steps out of the way and lets the Tao speak for itself. 46.
Decade. Obviously.
When a country is in harmony with the
That's
Tao,
what I mean.
This assessment.
the factories make trucks and tractors. When a country goes counter to the...
Yeah. I think that there's going to be, they're going to see Israel for what it's been doing, because they can't hide it. They can't censor it. It's going to be patently obvious. And the hearts and minds of people are going to be won over. And there's going to be no support of Israel. And I
Delusional.
think that there's going to be enough pressure pushed to ensure that the United States does not back Israel. And that's what's going to happen. What happens when Israel loses the United States? What happens when Israel loses the United States?
Delusional.
It's over. Right?
Okay, but assuming America, like, I don't know, I don't see a scenario where America cuts off support from Israel, but assuming that takes place, okay, then what do you think is going to happen?
Well, that's the question. I think.
But then Jesus is gonna come back, duh, to the Mount of Olives.
Dude, why you gotta do this?
Get him out.
Kick him, communist, fascist, terrorists.
Get him out.
Alright, fine.
Yeah, go. I think Israel has a lot of sway in the United States. That's not going to change anytime soon. I believe there's a reality that's just going to have to be recognized. And Israel's just going to and just like you said, for the very reasons, like social media and the access of, like, information and footage from what's happening over there. Israel can't commit to what is necessary for the survival of a Jewish state. So, based on that, I mean, Palestinians are, what's necessary for the survival of the Jewish state is the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians, of Arabs from the territories that are now the West Bank and Gaza. Yeah, so especially the West Bank, they need to ethnically cleanse these people, and they have not been able to do so because the Arabs understand the long game. So they understand that Israel doesn't need to be defeated in total war. All it needs to be defeated is through demographics. That's all it is. At the end of the day, Israel is going to have to annex these territories, and these territories, if annexed, are going to have to include the people in these territories. And it might be a time where, they're not given equal rights or citizenship, but eventually the world is going to call out apartheid. When these territories are annexed, it's going to be clear. There's no going to be, running around the bush on the whole apartheid accusation. So, and they're just going to, just like what happened in South Africa is going to happen again. I mean, that's my vision. At the current rate, we have 50-50 almost demographics, Arab, Jewish, in the historical land, like between the river and the sea. So that's just going to be, and once that kicks in, and assuming a peace scenario happens in the region, and borders open up to each other, that's it. It's over for the Jewish state. It's going to be Arabization. So they're just going to get all Arabized. History's going to repeat itself.
We don't even need a state of our own. We just need a territory where we can build,
Be the law for
Palestinian
love.
West Bank, Gaza, and East Jerusalem, where we can actually build, and we don't have to call it a state. As long as Israel does not have the project of occupying
This is called a quiet room for quiet atheists. Shh. This is a quiet room for quiet atheists.
That's right. No yelling.
No yelling allowed. That's the number one rule. This is an ASMR shh room.
Yeah, something like that. No, it's just the other rooms just get so loud and wacky.
It's intense because when you're listening to it, there's so many variables and so much like hyperbolic communication that I think it really takes a drain on like the listener's mental health.
That's probably true. But I mean, I feel like people are attracted to this kind of like disaster porn. Like I'm no different. Like I definitely go, ooh, disaster porn. Let me listen to that for a little bit. But it's like people working in a slaughterhouse. Well, no, that's a bad analogy, but it's kind of a good analogy at the same time.
I mean,
like, I think we stew in the mire of bullshit for a while that like it can become harmful.
I don't know. I think if you look at it as like a comedy club, it's probably a better reframe.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Because even in Andrew, you know, he is Woody. Somebody called him Woody from Toy Story, and he's like a caricature or a character, in the sense that you can hear him try to be funny, but he also plays like this American character, like okay, Bucko, okay, buddy. Like his communication is very motif or genre or category. So I don't know, he can't get out of his position. You know, he can't get a new script and go on stage and try to perform something else. It's always the same performance. But then sometimes he slips and he becomes immature, and thus insincere and a comedian and ludicrous and ridiculous, you know, and maybe even annoying.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's interesting about him is that he feels like a representation of a wider populace, right? Like there's a whole lot of Andrews in the United States, and that's there's just this sort of like, oh yeah, we're kind of doomed, right? Because there's just this inability to go beyond this platitude. This like stage that he's on that he just can't see beyond.
I mean, imagine if you could fly him out to like some rural village in India for some like weird Hindu festival or something. You know, what's he gonna say to people? You know, like just how.
I'm going to hell. You're satanic.
Well, meaning like how stupid is it really to not, you know, when in Rome, you know, do as the Romans. I mean, just embrace the moment now. So all your words and all your rhetoric it's missing the actual comprehension of what you are espousing is the truth. So that's the problem with Christians, is if Jesus attained enlightenment, taught enlightenment, the fact of the matter is none of these Christians on this app are actually recycling, regurgitating, or even discussing the enlightenment of Jesus and what the philosophy is behind this, you know, super historical person. So, I mean, maybe he is, but even then, it seems like it's a bad take. So it's just not full comprehension.
But that's compelling. Like like what is the philosophy of Joshua the Christ, right? Like as a character, like that's compelling. That's a compelling conversation, because there are a lot of things that come with Jesus, right? Like he hung out with hookers, he hung out with sick people, he was not very fond of the exchange of money in religious institutions. There was a certain amount of like fucking rebelliousness and sort of like anti-empire, right? Because obviously the Romans are there fucking shit up. And like all those
those qualities are things that I can empathize with. And those are the things that, like, you're right, maybe Andrew does talk about these things, but never when we're in the room.
I don't know, to me, Jesus is like a movie made in Hollywood, where it's so perfect and so extreme and polarized, meaning that the death, his crucifixion, his torture, but his political activism and trolling of the religious and political establishment, it seems to me like the Passion of the Christ, you could actually make it into like a horrific comedy, because it's just so fantastically ridiculous, meaning that there is no resurrection, there's no putting your fingers in the holes with some spirit and, you know, rising 3 days later and all. Like that's when the story gets really ridiculous. So you know, everything else I think leading up into that is like believable, meaning it's like Saved by the Bell. You know, it's about somebody's journey of temptation, and then trolling. I don't know it, because the whole thing is in the backdrop of Rome, and so you know how basically in the, you know, the pogroms of the Jews, like they use Christianity as a way to scapegoat the Jews, to take what they have or to punish them and be wicked and cruel. But what I'm trying to say is the Romans and their their absorption of Christianity. I don't know what the context is with the Jews. I mean, I know that the Romans destroyed the Jews in, I think, 70 CE with Titus and the destruction of Jerusalem. So I don't know, like America. See, like people have accused Andrew of being anti-Semitic or a Jew hater, you know, and a lot of people don't like Israel and the Jews or the Zionists or whatever. So even now, there's this whole paradigm of political overtone and possible like scapegoating and bigotry or you know, troping and things like that. So I don't know. Anyway, I'm just saying is the story is just repeating itself over and over and over again.
Well, but I mean, there is a sort of clear delineation between Judaism and Zionism, right? Like, they're not mutually exclusive. So you can be Jewish and not a Zionist, and you can be a Zionist and not be Jewish. And I think that the kind of arguments against Zionism, I think, are pretty sound.
But isn't every country Zionism because it's just nationalism?
No, it's not. Nationalism is saying that the people born in this country are the best people in the world, blah, blah, blah. Right? Like, this is extermination plus or internment, right? Like, Gaza Strip is walled off, and there's a foreign entity that controls whether or not these people have water and food. And for the last, year plus or whatever, they've just carpet bombed the fuck out of these people in a disproportionate war, right? That is done in really ugly, malicious ways.
But can you ever think of a war that wasn't disproportionate?
Well, I think World War II, Allied versus the Nazis, I think that was proportionate. I think Vietnam.
Really? You think it was even in the beginning? See, a war is a continuum. So there are times in the continuum where it's more disproportionate as it is proportionate. I mean, the beginning.
I don't think that Israel versus the Gaza Strip is a just war, right? So like there is a difference between just wars and unjust wars.
You don't think it's retribution for October 7th, that it's justified?
Like 200,000 plus dead people versus how many people died at that event? And
yeah,
how many
because
people were killed by the IDF.
Yeah, force doctrine is always 10-1 or even 20-1. So meaning that if you are a successful military, you sacrifice one soldier for every 10 to 20 kills. I mean, these are real historical statistics.
Civilians that we're talking about, like the UN agrees with me, right? Like a lot of people, a lot of military people agree that this is not the way you wage war.
Really? This is modern. This is modern war theory. I don't understand what's not modern about
it. Exterminating civilians? Do you think
no,
that's okay?
I think it's proportionate. I think 200,000 out of a population of 2 million is natural causality or casualties.
It's not.
Well, I'm just saying that's what the book says then.
the book.
Yeah, military doctrine books.
I don't think in modern times we consider what Israel has done to Palestinian civilians as justifiable.
I don't know. I mean, I've read a lot of history, and when you read history, it's so horrific that this, to me, doesn't seem out of line with all the history I've read. It seems to me like to be exactly what I've read, meaning that there's nothing out of the ordinary here. On average. It's not a popular take, but on average, I think this is falling in line with the averages of conflicts, military conflicts.
Yeah, I don't give them a pass for ethnic cleansing and for attempted genocide. I don't.
Yeah, but then how do you rationalize the terrorists on October 7th rampaging and killing and taking hostages and burning bodies and doing horrific things on October 7th at a peace concert? It was a peace concert.
Everything that had happened before October 7th, like, there was already a body count of Palestinian civilians that year.
Yeah, but that's like saying it's connected to the year that's like saying it's connected to the year 70 CE. You could claim continuum, but the now is all important.
Violence happening within the year is not the same as like thousands of years ago.
Well, when do you stop? Then you got to make the decision. Then what year do you stop taking in account? What year do you stop taking in history? So your judgment is only based on a specific time frame within 1 year of the most recent activities. That's how you
go all the way to 1948 if you want.
But you can't go past 1948. You won't go any further back in time.
How far back?
Because I'm making the point that the now is all important. That's what philosophy teaches. Thus, it's a history hypnosis game. And when you say that it wasn't okay, well, that's my theory, anyways. Can't take the conversation.
And I think this is why the Arab League has stepped up and have proposed a plan, have come up with and said we will pay for it, and this is how it's going to be done, and they understand once reconstruction begins, then that's the end. You can't have war with people that are building. That's the opposite of the narrative that they've been building for 60 years. So I think look at the letter. It's over 200,000 people have signed on, and then that's what we just don't know about. A lot of IDF reservists, even the 8200 group. There's a lot of
Israeli army could complain all they want. At the end of the day, insurrection. I don't see insurrection taking place in the IDF ranks.
Well, it doesn't have to be full insurrection, though. It doesn't have to be full. It doesn't have to be a full insurrection. It just has to be a lot of cracks in the Israeli political system in Israeli society. And if you take the pressure off of where they're not occupying the West Bank, they're not going in, they're not conducting military operations, then they have to go somewhere else to stay in power. They have to have a war with somebody else to stay in power. And if they don't, then they can't rally around the flag, and that's what it comes down to. The rallying around the flag has lost its meaning, has been diminished, and now they're in a position where there's nothing that they can do in the West Bank or Gaza that would actually make Israel powerful, make Israel the way it was 10 years ago. just don't see a scenario of that. I mean, economically, I don't see it. Politically, I don't see it. Romantically, I don't see it.
Again, the West Bank, Israel's presence in the West Bank is necessary for the, for the Jewish state to exist, to continue. They need to get rid of they need to ethnically cleanse the Palestinians. This is just, they have to. It's not an option.
Okay, what about the settlers? What about the settlers?
They're going to expand. They're going to continue.
No. Are the settlers, are they in line politically, ideologically, with the upper echelon in Israel right now that is calling the shots? Most of them.
Actually, the settlers are at this point running the game. They've taken Israel hostage, because these guys are committed to the settlements, and they're going to continue the policies that they're doing. They're not going anywhere, and at that point, Israel needs to accommodate for them. They're the minority who's controlling the majority at this point.
And you think the white European Zionists are going to allow them to do this? Specifically?
It's not an option. They don't have any options.
I don't know. I mean, I think they have options. They're not good options, but they have options. I just don't see them allowing the settlers to take over the government of Israel. I just can't imagine them sitting by and saying, you know what, you could take over and it's the secular European.
They don't need to take over. The settlers don't need to take over. They're just a reality that you're going to have to contend with. They are not going anywhere. And you're not going to force them out. You're not going to. These are 700,000 people armed to the teeth. There's no one that's going to try to remove these people. They're here to stay. These settlements aren't going anywhere. That's what everybody needs to recognize. 700,000 people armed with M16s and light, now, they've been actually smuggling weapons in there. They have, they have explosives. And they've been some sort of infrastructure going on.
Who are they getting ready for a war against?
They are getting ready for war against anybody who is going to displace them from what they believe is Judean.
And who would that be?
Whether that's the IDF,
Syndicated with a lonely man is very little love.
What do you think it is? Okay,
They only knew the law.
They will engage. They will fight.
Right, and I think it's